Morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are from. I hope that you are negative of the possible positive or negative, whatever, of this pandemic. In short, I hope that you are just okay at the comfort of your zones. The last meeting, we have talked about why we should teach grammar. Today, as the second topic, we will talk about the principles and concepts in the teaching of grammar. For this lesson, using we will be using the slide show of Dr. Timothy Taylor of the Education University of Hong Kong, which is entitled Teaching Grammar in Context or Basic Principles and Concepts in Doing Grammar. So, recently before, we have religiously memorized STVDO, STVIODO, SIV adverb. I don't know if you are familiar with what I am telling you, but when we were in high school, we have been entailed with these sentence patterns. They have helped us, yes, but language is more meaningful if we focus not only on form but also on meaning and use. As it says here, grammar teaching has traditionally focused on form. So we have focused on sentence patterns. But in order to be more meaningful, grammar teaching should be balanced attention to form, meaning, and use. Or in other words, it must be in context or it must be contextualized. Now, there are three premises that we will be considering regarding the teaching of grammar or regarding the principles of teaching grammar. Premise one is life and language are meaningful. Remember the first time that you have realized a thought to live by because you were able to read it? Maybe you have been amazed to have discovered meaning from what you have read. Because really, life is meaningful. And your knowledge of language, of English, the universal language, can help you discover more meaning. Friedrich Nietzsche said, one curricularist said, he who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. So if you know the whys of life, you will be you will surely know of the how. Premise number two, learning should be meaningful. But in order for it to be meaningful, really, it must happen now. Learning does not seem to be happening unless there is discovery of meaning. I repeat that. Learning does not seem to be happening unless there is discovery of meaning. You do not learn unless you discover the meaning of what you are doing. And learning is only meaningful if the learning suits the situation now. There must be nowness of the learning. In short, it must be contextualized. It happens at the right time with the right person for the right purpose. And premise number three, language knowledge and language skills are not the same. You see, knowledge is what you know about something, and skills is the knowledge of how to apply that knowledge. What are we teaching when we teach grammar? The chart explains what we are teaching when we teach grammar. We have here the pink or the purplish circle, which stands for the assessment. The yellow stands for the pedagogical grammar or the forms and functions. The green circle represents language skills or strategies, and the blue one represents discourse or genre or communication. So, what is represented by the pink? The pink or the purplish circle stands for assessment. When you hear a communication or when you hear an utterance or a sentence spoken by a listener, you got to assess the meaning of that conversation based on your knowledge of the language and based on your own perspective. For example, the sentence, uh, his father will be coming tonight. His father will be coming tonight. If you say that excitedly, oh, his father will be coming tonight, may be different from his father will be coming tonight, which has somehow a little interrogative tone in it. And then the second one, the yellow one, the pedagogical grammar or the forms and functions. This is used for the communicator to analyze whether the utterance that the communicator or the sender of the message has sent has clear forms and clear grammar, correct grammar. Does it observe um, correct subject and verb? Is the subject and does the subject and the verb, do they agree? The green one, language skills and strategies. The listener gets to internalize, analyze what skills or strategies did he or she use in analyzing the heard or the listened to utterance. And finally, the blue one, the discourse, genre, or communication. Is there a communication? Is there a successful communication between the sender of the message to that of the receiver? So that is what we are teaching when we teach English. From receiving, we already assess up to evaluating if there is a success in the communication. Now, what is grammar? Grammar is a negotiated system of rules that governs the relationship of parts within a system of systems. It is a negotiated system of rules. That is why we say that according to or of all the rules that we are observing in grammar teaching, there is only one general rule, and that is the subject must agree with the verb. Okay? Next, grammar reflects many characteristics of language, which is highly personal, emotional, and powerful in addition to being rule-governed, culturally contextualized, and sometimes very dull. Another, grammar, in other words, is both straightforward and very complex, a natural part of language systems and a highly technical academic subject. If you have not understood this, I urge you to read the poem by Richard Lederer, as you pronounce Lederer, Richard Lederer, which is entitled English is a Crazy Language, and you will understand what I am talking about here. Let's simplify. What is pedagogical grammar? Pedagogical grammar primarily deals with syntax and morphology, sentence level, and word level rules and order. It includes grammatical analysis and instruction designed for second language students. It often presents language in a simplified and inauthentic manner in order to facilitate teaching. What is pedagogical grammar? More on the succeeding slides. Compare these activities. Letter A, identify the errors in the sentence. The sentence is, some of the sugar are wet. As you can see, this is A, this is B, this is C, and this is D. Of course, what is error here? It is this. When you use some and you are pertaining with an uncountable noun, verb should be singular. But some people, which is countable, it will take plural. It may be are, it may be were. Second, Make a script based on the situation described. You are a tourist. You lost at the market. At the market, ask a stranger of the way to your hotel. Have a partner for your demonstration. You are asking the learners that they will act as a tourist who is lost at the market, and they must ask a stranger for them to be helped to their way to their hotel. Which do you think is more authentic on these two activities? Comment down your answer. If your answer is A, uh-huh, your answer is B, you are correct. A is an example of a pedagogical grammar. It is sentence-based, form-based. It is inauthentic way of teaching grammar. Inauthentic in the sense that some students question, why should we learn this? Why do we need to study this? Where can we apply this? Okay naman. There are characteristics of pedagogical grammar. First, it focuses on the correctness instead of comprehensibility of appropriateness. Another, it is focused on grammar rules, but of course, in every rule, there is an exemption. And then, um, it is on sentence level analysis only. What else? Contrastive analysis leaves students with the feeling of being wrong without knowing what is right. Next, prescriptive language is highly valued. And then knowledge based instead of skills based. And then often inauthentic in an effort to conform language to teaching topic. So, rules. As I have said a while ago, it is focused on rules. What is the rule here? The rule is use the auxiliary verb do with interrogative and negative sentences, not with affirmative sentences. These are negative sentences and interrogative sentences. These are affirmative, but it says in the rule, not with affirmative sentence. Let us see. Does my sister live in New York? It uses the verb do. My sister does not live in New York. Negative sentence. My sister lives in New York. Affirmative. There is no do in here. But an exemption to the rule is this. My sister does live in New York. Or I do agree with you. Or my sister lives not in Hong Kong but in New York. When does this happen? This happens, this is called the emphatic form of verb. This is formed when usually there is doubt on these in these negative sentences and interrogative sentences. For example, your sister does not live in New York. So, in order for you to emphasize, you say, my sister does live in New York. That's the word emphatic form. You emphasize. Another, rules and exceptions too. For quantifiers, some and any. Rule, use some in positive or affirmative sentences. Some is used for both countable and uncountable nouns. I have some friends. Friends is countable. I'd like some water. Oh, of course, water is uncountable. But sabi kanina, use some in positive, affirmative. It can also be used in interrogative. Would you like some cheese? Can I have some water? As a request. Or have you got some cheese? Now let's move on to examples of um, contrastive analysis. This one. leaves students with a feeling of being wrong without knowing what is right. Activity 1. Acceptability of form. The reason I'm worried is because I think she is ill. Do we accept it? Sometimes grammarians say this is unacceptable because you have already said the reason. The reason I'm worried is because sometimes they say, is that I think she is ill. But depending on the culture, depending on the acceptability of the place, either is accepted. Number 2, his work is different than mine. Do we really use than or from? Number 3, can I have another helping of dessert, please? Can, when you are asking for a favor, usually we use may instead of can. Because usually we answer this question with, yes, you can, but you may not, which I also answer to my students. Number 4, I encountered less difficulties than I expected. Less difficulties comparing to what you have expected or lesser difficulties. Number 5, everyone put on their coats and went home. Who are we referring to here in their coats? Everyone put on their coats. Number 6, how to spell. How to spell, what to spell, why to spell. Number 7, we must remember to accurately check our answers. I think this is acceptable. What do you think? Comment down. Number 8, that behavior is something I will not put up with. Put up with, is that the correct idiom? Number 9, it's me. It is me or it's I. Number 10, who did you meet? Take note that this sentence, there are so many people who are confused with the use of who and the use of whom. But this sentence is uh, correct. Next, example of sentence level analysis. Sentence level open choices. I was suddenly instructed to blank the guard at the entrance of the embassy last night. How many sentences can you tell for this line? The inspector said he was not in a blank to comment on the case. And number 3, cigarette? No thanks. What can you add to this to complete the sentence? Let us see. Here are some choices to the previous activity. I was suddenly instructed to blank the guard at the entrance of the embassy last night. Forced choices. The previous one is open choice. These are forced choices. You need to pick. While on the previous, you may replay this and see open choice. So it can either be relax, relieve, stand, place. Number 2, the inspector said he was not in a blank to comment on the case. He was not in the place, he was not in a position, in a space, in power. Cigarette, no thanks, I'm not smoking, or I don't smoke. Forced choice. Next, let's have examples of often inauthentic activities or questions in an effort to conform language to the teaching topic. See this one. What can you see in the picture? Answer, I can see some pork. What else can you see? I can see 3 prawns. Is there more practical way of asking this question? This one. Textbook form or the full form. What can you see in the picture? A more practical way or more authentic version? What's in the picture? I think children are more ready in answering this question rather than this. What else? I can see some port is the answer. More practical way or more authentic? Some port. Casual some port. For the question, what else can you see? The more casual way is anything else? Answer to the full form or the textbook form. I can see three prawns. The more practical way, prawns. See the difference? Now, why do grammar matters? This is a follow-up lesson to your first topic, which is why do we teach grammar? A difference in form may be difference in meaning. For example, I eat dinner with dad. I eat dinner with dad, meaning casually, occasionally, the speaker eats dinner with his or her dad. The meaning of this, I ate dinner with dad, only once did the speaker eat with his or her dad. Second, the old man was hit by the car last night. Mhm. The old man was hit by the car. It's as if the car is a man who hit the old man. While in here, the car hit the old man last night. Which do you think is more appropriate, more acceptable? Next, Sue eats sandwiches for lunch. Sue is a person. Eat. Is this acceptable? Sue eats sandwiches for lunch. Occasional. Next, if I'm you, I'll go on Thursday instead of Wednesday. Compared to this, if I were you, I'd go on Thursday. I would go on. I would go on or I will go on. Will is a future tense. Would is willingness. I would go. And the conclusion, meaning is motivating. I repeat, learning only happens when the learner discovers the meaning of what he or she does. Next, context provides layers of meaning that support learning. Unless the learning is based on the context of the learner will be hard up in learning. Mahirap kapag hindi nangyari in the context of the students yung situation na ginamit. Third, minds are adapted for language learning in order to make meaning. When we hear an utterance, we immediately ask, ano daw? Or what? Next, children's mental lives are rich, complex, and creative. If grammar teaching isn't working, whose fault is that? Is that children's fault or teacher's fault or parents' fault? Next, pre-adolescent children need meaningful language experience and practice, not labels like meta language or decontextualized word or sentence level language exercises. Meaningful language. You remember the A and B situation in pedagogical grammar, always choose to have exercises like that of the B because it is more practical. The more that the students uh, outpour their knowledge, their meaning of life. And lastly, adolescent and post-adolescent students can analyze the meaning of language and its relationships relationship to grammar in order to make good choices, but such analysis should be subordinate to practicing meaningful interactions. So, we teach grammar because it helps us internalize, it helps us analyze the meaning of the learning that is served to us. I hope you have learned something from this lesson. And as a follow-up, if you have really learned something, the next slide are the questions for your evaluation. Good day and keep keep being healthy. I am stammering because pandemic we do not usually speak that long compared to when we were speaking with you, our students, face to face. So I hope you are enjoying my stuttering and stammering. Goodbye and God bless.